The following content is sponsored and does not necessarily reflect the views of WATD Radio. Now, Paul Ponders on 95.9 WATD. Be a part of the show. Call or text 781-837-4900. Now, here's your host, Paul Solano.
Greetings and welcome. Thanks for listening to Paul Ponders on WATD, presented by Northeastern Fence and Supply Corporation of Saugus, where they have fences for your kids, dogs, and ugly neighbors. My name is Paul Solano of the PS&L Marketing Group, and as you probably already know, I also wear another hat as General Manager of Pearl Street Station Restaurant in Malden. And a huge shout out to Chef Felipe Fitzpatrick and his culinary team. Chef Felipe is a loyal listener through the Odyssey app. So hello to Chef Felipe. And as always, we have lots of activity at Pearl Street Station this weekend. You, Chef Joaquin, Pizziola Muhammad, holding down the fort with my grade 12-15 staff of John, Jen, Selene, Nicole, and Dennis. And Chef Felipe, I must say that those shrimp tacos you made last night were absolutely incredible. What a tremendous blend of fun items you packed into those shrimp tacos. The avocado slices really enhanced the finished product. So thank you for continuing the National Taco Day celebration from Tuesday into last night. And also, as a quick side note, I know you're feeling a little under the weather, and you had your famous Jewish penicillin, your chicken soup, which is really awesome. But I know you were adding that black pepper, and you had that sneezing fit afterwards. So be careful of that black pepper in the chicken soup. But anyways, keep up the great work, Chef Felipe. So this is show number 45, and it is truly an absolute honor and pleasure to be on WATD in the slot of The Boiling Point with Arthur Boyle. Arthur is out there plugging away with advertisers. We're coming up on an anniversary specialty ads, and maybe a gathering for our sponsors and for our listeners. How many listeners out there? So we'll be finding out more about that, but I really cannot believe that it's been 45 shows. And it's always nice to have in-studio guests. And today I have a friend of mine who I've known over the past 3-4 years or so. He's one of our hosts, game hosts at Pearl Street Station Restaurant, and his name is Steve Turner. Steve, welcome.
Hello, Paul. It's great to be. It's certainly an honor and a pleasure to spend more time with you in here in studio. And we have Tim behind the glass doing a great job producing us today, so I'm happy to be here with you guys.
He certainly is, and there is Tim behind the glass. He's on the phone calling our next guest and all, but we'll put Tim on shortly. But
yes, hello, good afternoon.
Hello there. You heard your name mentioned.
Yeah, I tend to do that sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if I'm being yelled at. Tim, push that button. No,
you're always pushing buttons there, right?
Yeah, but hopefully the right ones.
And this is true. Yes. This is true. So you had a good week, Mr. Tim.
Yeah, another good week. Nothing to complain about.
Yeah, I heard Miles on Motorsports on Wednesday, and worked.
Yeah, that was a terrific show with some local family racers. A whole family of the Murray family came in, and Chuck Renato Parts works with them, and awesome show. It was a lot of fun.
Well, it's nice when a show like that really is a drag, right?
Yeah, I don't think they drag race though. They do the stock cars, if you will.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No dragging around unless they didn't win. Then I don't know. They might be dragging a little bit then.
That's really great. Well, Tim, keep up the great work. 25 years and counting. Hey.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely, indeed. So, Steve, again, welcome, and tell us a little bit about, before we go into our segment in a couple of minutes, tell us a little bit about your work at Pearl Street Station Restaurant as our game host.
Well, Paul, actually, when you said earlier that about 3 or 4 years, I think you're shortchanging our relationship. I actually started there in the year of COVID, the end of the year, 2020. You guys were on a hiatus like many of the restaurants and venues around the Boston area because of COVID. And at some point in time, you guys decide that you want to pick up the trivia once again because you had a fabulous host prior to me showing up in December. I walked in the door, I think it was like the middle of December, 2020. And first person I met, I think, may have been Maria, met Jen. The staff that was there back then is still here today, and we have a great relationship with everybody. So it's been a blessing. You and I have talked about this before in the past, so it's been such a treat for me to be able to spend time with you individuals on a weekly basis. And you and I have had conversations when your availability is in the restaurant itself. So it's been a fun time there. And we get together every Wednesday night for a game called Opinionation. It's provided by the nationwide trivia company called Sporcle. That's Sporcle. Don't confuse the C for a K. People do it all the time. They host many trivia games virtually as well as in person, and Pro Street Station is one of those benefactors of it. And we meet Wednesday night between 7:30 and 8:30 for 2 different games of Opinionation style, that's the name of the game, but it's more like Family Feud style trivia. And it tends to give people sometimes some cheers, sometimes some jeers, because the survey, just like Family Feud, when they say 100 people surveyed, they're just anonymous surveys. People answer questions, just what they think are the popular answers to those particular questions. The example I like to give all the time is, what color is the sky today? Some people will say it's blue. Some people will say it's white, especially here in the New England area. It gets really dark and cloudy. Nighttime, it's black. So it's challenging when somebody says the sky is orange and people don't answer that, and they get mad because the answer is not blue or white and anything like that. So the fun part about looking at that is looking at the people sit there and try to guess what the answer is at the top, and when they find out their answer, like everybody's opinion is right, when their answer is not right, they get a little offended by that. So yeah, it's a fun game. Like I said, we've been doing it there. I've been doing it there for 5 years, and I know you had it there prior, and it's always gets a great crowd. I will say for Sporcle and for the league teams, which I can tell you about in a little bit, but the league teams, the teams that show up quite regularly there at Pearl Street Station are, in my opinion, one of the best sets of groups of people that continuously come and join Pearl Street Station. I know it's not just because of me. I know it's because of the staff that's at Pearl Street Station that treats them very well. I know it's because of the food that's excellent there at Pearl Street Station, as well as the drinks. But they come every Wednesday night. I'd say about at least 6 or 7 regular groups of people, about 20 to 25 people on Wednesday nights on a consistency. So I know that they're there for many of those reasons. And then there's some teams that continuously show up that sporadically are there once in a while, like maybe once or twice a month. And, and then, of course, you have your regulars that are there on a daily basis, which is great. So it's fun. It's a whole little mix of different people that sit there and play with us.
That is awesome, and I want to hear more after this next segment we have coming up, and after the break, about how that all evolved and where we were years ago, and how we evolved into the Opinionation and beyond.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, at this point of the program, we have the Pod Pro Entertainment Techie Toolbox segment with Techie Talonzo Amos and typically Shelley Wolf, global media firm, owner of Toolbox Entertainment, vice president of technology literacy for Pod Pro Entertainment, and a past Paul Ponders guest, episode number 35. Well, Shelley had a yen to go to Japan last week or a week and a half or so ago, in Hong Kong for a month. So we have a returning guest to Paul Ponders, none other than the president and founder of Pod Pro Entertainment, Mr. Techie Talonzo Amos. Techie, you on the line?
I'm on the line, Paul. How you doing this afternoon, brother?
I am doing well, my friend. Doing well. And say hi to Steve.
Hello, Steve.
How are you today?
I'm fine. How's the weather down there? Hashtag south of Zachem. How's the weather down there?
It is fantastic. Traffic-wise, as Tim mentioned, not that fantastic, but the weather itself makes up for it for sure.
Yeah, I heard the traffic report that Tim Behind the Glass, first of all, shout out to Tim Behind the Glass. But I heard the weather report from Tim Behind the Glass, and I'm just fortunate and happy that I did not make that trek over the Zachem, and I'm on the North Shore, not sitting in traffic. So I'm happy for that.
Well, my daughter, Ann, is in from California, and with her wife, Sarah, and the other night said, "Do you still go on the godforsaken bridge?" And I said, "Oh, I remember when you used to say that when we used to go down to visit Uncle Arthur in Pembroke and go down the Cape. But the Zachem Bridge is just a wonderful, wonderful structure. But unfortunately, at times, some people just have a tough time going over the bridge and visiting both ways." But Pod Pro Entertainment, in the past, for the past umpteen segments, probably like about 44 out of 45 segments, Talonzo, we've heard many tips from Shelley and all, but I invariably get so many emails, and people are always asking, what is Pod Pro Entertainment? So if you would let our listeners in Paul Ponders land know what Pod Pro Entertainment is all about.
Pod Pro Entertainment is your trusted partner in content creation. So we work with various plethora of different entities. We work with corporations. We work with small businesses. We work with nonprofits. And we work with individuals, which are content creators. Paul, you are an individual. You are a content creator. So we work with folks like you. And basically, everybody has a story to tell. Everybody is a expert in something. So what we do as Pod Pro Entertainment, again, your trusted partner, is that we team up with you and we provide a vehicle for you to get your voice out there, for you to get your message out there. So you provide the talent because you are the talent. You provide the content. You come into a virtual studio custom-made for you. You record your content. We are actually recording your content. Then you get up and you get to walk away. We do the rest.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And this is not like we're going to a brick and mortar operation. We're doing it online, virtually.
Yeah, yes, it is a virtual. Again, it is a custom-made virtual studio. So if we take your show for an example, Paul Ponders, whenever you have a guest, and of course when you don't have a guest either, because sometimes you do solo episodes, we send a link. The platform that we record on is Riverside, right? Mm-hmm. And then there is a custom designed studio branded with your branding. So recording is not going into a brick and mortar studio. That is so 20th century. We are 21st century. This is the Jetsons age, baby. Mm-hmm. Zoom, boom. So in the comfort of wherever you're at in the world, you can record your content and let Pod Pro Entertainment do the rest.
That is absolutely fabulous. And I know that you use so many hashtags in promoting the shows, and I know one is hashtag the new radio.
Hashtag the new radio, yes. So we like to refer to ourselves as hashtag the new radio. And all these hashtags, they are SEO, search engine optimized. So anybody and everybody can have a podcast. There are so many podcasts out there. There are a bazillion podcasts out there. Discoverability is how you get your podcast, you get eyes on your podcast. So with Pod Pro Entertainment, what's built into our services is that you will have free advertising, free promotion on our social media platforms. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube Shorts. We're on Facebook, and we're on LinkedIn. So those 6 platforms are included in the service that we have. But it's always recommended to put eyes on your promotion. As my favorite professional wrestler, Trey TSOG, the smooth operating gangster, would say, take no promotion like self-promotion. So if you have social media, Paul, yourself, you have a social media presence. You have a IG presence, Instagram presence, and you have a Twitter presence. And I see that your episodes, your promotions are posted on those social media platforms as well.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Steve, do you have any questions? I think Steve has a question.
Yeah, Alonzo, we were talking about, Paul and I have joked many times, we were both of Italian heritage, and we talked about maybe sitting around on a couch with a nice cigar and a glass of scotch, discussing old man Italian stuff. And we thought, how can we put something like that together as a podcast, even though we have the grace of being able to hear in the WATD studios together for the first time. But what if we were separated in different locations and we wanted to put a podcast together?
Not a problem. Again, we're your trusted partner. One of you could be sitting down there in the studios of WATD. The other could be sitting in Italy yourself, and I'm on the North Shore. And yes, again, we just bring you into a virtual studio where you would, record your podcast. And I forgot to mention that we do audio podcasts and video podcasts. Paul Ponders is an audio podcast, but we support video podcasts as well. So when you're sitting down with your cigar, and I think that your brandy, first of all, I wish I could partake, but I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, and I never put anything to smoke to my face in my life. And I am not judging anybody who does that. So I could not enjoy the relaxation with you two, but I am not there to relax. I am there to do all the work where you and Paul would have an enjoyable conversation, smoking your stogies, drinking your booze, talking about your celebrated Italian heritage.
That sounds like we may have to speak to Techie Talonzo off air and make this happen. And Steve and I were joking that we both have faces for radio, and we're both looking at Hair Club for Men to be our principal sponsor.
I think you should make it happen. I really think you should make it happen.
Okay, we'll have to work on that. Absolutely. So, what are some of your other clients, Techie?
We have Save Visibility, produced by David D'Angelo. And what Save Visibility is, it's about bringing awareness to the lack of disability inclusion employment in the workplace. So basically, about 70 to 75% of all working persons that are disabled are not in the labor force. And that is just a crime. That is just a shame. It's not. And when I say labor force, let's not get it twisted. Let's not get it twisted with being unemployed. It's the labor force. If you're unemployed, you are in the labor force. But if you're not unemployed, if you're not employed, you're not in the labor force. So Save Visibility just brings attention to that and brings their solutions, and they have a plethora of guests as well that are experts in that field, and it's just very educational. And they have just surpassed a podcast milestone. I'm getting ahead of myself. Their next podcast is going to be posted this Wednesday coming up, and that's going to be the monumental podcast. That's going to be their 100th episode. So congratulations to Save Visibility. Now, another podcast is the Career Guru, and that is a podcast that's produced out of Boston Career Institute, which is basically a medical facility, trade school, if you will. BCI, Boston Career Institute, has been in the game for over 20 years with campuses in Brookline, with a campus in Malden, with a campus in, I said Brookline, Malden, with a campus in Lowell. They've just opened up a campus in Lynn, and there are rumblings, there are talks of possibly having a campus on the South Shore. I know they're looking at Brockton. I'm not sure. I'm not a spokesman for BCI, but BCI have heard the demands and demands are that have a school on the South Shore, and I completely support that.
That's fabulous. Well, as we start to wind down, Techie Talonzo, how would our listeners reach out to Pod Pro Entertainment?
You can reach out to Pod Pro Entertainment. You can reach out to us at info@Pod Pro Entertainment. And I just want to shout out the work that Shelley Wolf does. And, again, folks, if you don't want to talk to me, you want to talk to Shelley Wolf, who's going to really educate you in technology. Again, you can reach out to us at info@podproentertainment.com.
Wow. Well, I thank you for filling in for Shelley. Who's that famous baseball player?
Well, you see, Paul, just to bring the audience up to speed, you began your WATD ventures back in December/January. Mm-hmm. So December of 2024, January 2025. And I came on one of your earlier episodes. It was episode 1 or 2, I'm not sure. And I was going into my basketball season. So I gave a techie tip, and then what I did, I tagged in Shelley Wolf. And then for the next 11, 12 weeks, I'm listening to her tech tips, and I'm like, she does a far better job than I would do because she's a natural teacher. I'm a source of information. She's a natural teacher. So basically, I got Wally Pipp. She's Lou Gehrig. I'm Wally Pipp. And I just, bow down to her Lou Gehrigness. And I look forward to her coming back very soon to continue to, where she had left off. And Wally Pipp knows his role, and that is on the bench.
That's great. I love it. Well, maybe I'm still holding out hope that we're going to get a call from Tokyo, which is actually Shelley would be on a Sunday. It's Sunday in Tokyo right now. It would be kind of cool to have her call in on the WhatsApp, but we'll have to see. And I wish her safe travels and look forward to having her back in a couple of weeks and all. But Techie Talonzo, I want to thank you for being on. Great job, and keep up the great work.
And, Paul, I want to thank you for this opportunity to come on WATD. And, Paul, I have a personal request.
What is that?
I'm going to put it out there on blast. We want Tim Behind the Glass to be a future guest on Paul Ponders. So only you, Paul, can make that happen.
And I think I will. The challenge is out there. Tim Behind the Glass.
Oh, I don't know if I'm worthy for a whole segment, but thank you, Talonzo. That's very kind. Thank you.
No, really, and Tim has such a great career. Has had a great career here, and in his other job, he does great work in human services, and he's just a tremendous person.
Well, save all that content for the episode, brother.
Okay, you got it. That's a hashtag indeed, brother.
Hashtag splendid.
You got it. Be well now.
You too, thanks.
Thanks. Well, as Arthur Boyle says, it's not time to make the donuts, it's time to pay some bills, so let's hear from our sponsors.
Have you heard about Pembroke Collision? Price and quality don't often collide under the same roof. Not so at Pembroke Collision at 192 Maniquisett Street in Pembroke. Pembroke Collision will work with you and your insurance company to get you back on the road in a safe and satisfactory vehicle. Put your trust in Ben Bastianelli and his crew at Pembroke Collision. Just call 781-293-4040 or find them on Facebook. Pembroke Collision, happy to work for you. Have you tried Bryantville Pizza Kitchen? From antipasto to baked ziti, specialty gourmet burgers, over 30 different kinds of pizza, and that's steak and cheese. Come on in and they'll show you why they made a reputation as being the best steak and cheese sub in the area. There's nobody that puts it together like your friends at the Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. Chicken wings and fingers and the famous flavors complement their stir-fry dinners. If subs and wraps aren't enough for your table tonight, expand into Greek and Caesar salads, maybe even a calzone. Anyway, it's all good at the Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. And don't forget, invite them to your next catered event. They'll bring the food. Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. Call them at 781-293-9857.
Are you looking for fencing and outdoor products? Look no further than Northeastern Fence and Supply Corporation of Saugus. When owner Mike Payne's customers have been asked why they chose Northeastern Fence, many said that there were three deciding factors: customer respect, excellent customer service, and quality products. I say that you need to add in 70-plus years of a family-run business with truly experienced sales and installation teams. So if you are in the market for fences for your kids, dogs, and ugly neighbors, please call Mike Payne and his crew at 781-233-3324 or email mike@northeasternfence.com.
Paul Ponders continues on 95.9 WATD. Once again, Paul Solano.
We are back, and thanks for listening to Paul Ponders on WATD, presented by Northeastern Fence and Supply Corporation of Saugus, where they have fences for your kids, dogs, and ugly neighbors. The call-in number here is 781-837-4900, and you could also find us on the Odyssey app. That's AUDACY, and as we referenced earlier, it's really something where you could hear so many different radio stations from across the globe out there in that Odyssey app. And a shout out to all those nonprofits out there. You could reach me at paul@paulponders.com. Just a quick shout out to last week's fundraiser that I had up in Malden for the National Italian American Sports Hall of Fame. And also a shout out to Quinn Kelly for promoting it on his Sports Exchange and also on his daily show. We had a great turnout. We honored Coach Al Finaro, head coach at Xaverian. We had Coach John DiBiaso, Coach Dibbs, receiving a special award, the Champ DeMarco Spirit and Achievement Award, and also Joe DiSarcina, a minor league. He was in the San Diego Padres system, and he was the player manager for the Augustine athletics for many years in the 70s and 80s, and all three gentlemen gave just tremendous speeches. We're very happy with the honors, and it was just really great to have so many former major leaguers in attendance, and Rico Petrocelli was the highlight. It's always great to see my friend Rico, and Rico was just so affable. He and his wife Elsie were there, and as a matter of fact, a friend of mine, Gary Levitt, who has a show on Tuesday nights, he had Rico on his show this past Tuesday, and they had a great time. I'm not sure if Gary has a segment, if that's on file, but I'll have to check that out. I didn't hear the full interview, but also too, Gary's daughter Renee sang the national anthem, the United States national anthem, and she did a fabulous job. She's performed for the Boston Red Sox with the anthem, and she did a fabulous job. So congratulations to Gary and Renee. And of course, we had the Italian national anthem with Natalia Stico. She did just an incredible job with the Italian national anthem, and you know that last name Stico because of Gene Stico, who's been on our show many times with his Engineering Infinity symposium and all. We'll hear more about that at a later date. But anyways, it was just a great day for the National Italian-American Sports Hall of Fame, and congratulations to President Dave Caiazzo and the rest of the board for putting together a great afternoon. Now, listeners can go to paulponders.com to find subscription links to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as finding past Paul Ponders on WATD shows. And my last episode will drop this past Sunday night with Jody Sarcina, who I mentioned earlier. It was really great episode, and it worked out really well. Now, at this point of the segment, we have the Community Outreach segment sponsored by PS&L Marketing Group and the mortgage originators from Riverworks Credit Union. And again, we have our in-studio guest, Steve Turner. Welcome back.
I'm happy to be here, Paul. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's great to have you here, my friend. And we'll take this the rest of the way. We'll have a quick break on commercials, but let's talk. You had mentioned something. You heard that voice on the radio with the Northeastern Fence.
Yeah, it sounded familiar. I wasn't sure.
Who is that?
I don't know. Does that sound like somebody that's sitting right across from me? I was having one of those moments where it's like, am I in the right place right now? Because I'm hearing a guy in my ear, but I'm also looking at him, and his mouth's not moving.
That is true. It is me. Now, you and I have talked about you're taking voiceover classes.
Yeah, I started about a couple of years ago. It's been a slow move because I'm obviously doing trivia with you at Pearl Station and other venues around the Boston area, as well as working a daytime job in IT, which is a fun job. Technology is always changing. It keeps me on my toes, but it's a nice paycheck to fortify my hobby of doing voiceover, which eventually will hopefully turn into a full-time gig. But it's quite an interesting feed, and when you come in and told me about the equipment here, I was very familiar with be careful of the ruffling of the feathers and the clicking of the lips and stuff like that, because all that stuff is picked up by the microphone. I'm not quite sure what Tim is. Tim's smiling in there, so I'm very familiar with specific technologies when it comes to making sure you're very specific when you speak it to the microphone, but make sure you try to get the lips smacking that keeps away from those tones, and as well as banging on the. So I'm sitting there trying to sit as still as possible without making too much movement, because I'm not sure what the listeners are hearing on the other end.
Steve, you're doing great.
Thank you.
Just don't pound the table, and we'll be good. That's it. That's all you got to worry about. You're doing fine.
Thank you. And I'm trying to learn that right now with my home studio, where it's the vibration of the computer that's in the other room. It's outside the booth that I'm in right now, so I kind of hear that vibration a little bit. And the technology is the challenge for me right now, even though I'm in IT. It's the understanding how it works specifically to make sure that the vibration doesn't come back, the feedback doesn't pop into the screen there. But it's the voiceover stuff. Me using my own voice is not the problem. It's the content and, again, the ability to use the technology properly.
And I'm probably the worst person on this one, because I have my phone on the table here. I'm getting these texts about the Party Pan delivery and event we have tonight at the Winter Hill Yacht Club. And it's a huge event. And my phone is going off with all sorts of texts, so I'm sorry if there's vibration on the table here. I'm putting it in my pocket. Sorry about that. So anyways, my bad on that. But it's these little things that really do make a difference. And I know Tim in his 25 years here at ATD is just really just built such a professional operation for all the shows that he produces. And when I listen to ATD as far north as Andover, Tewksbury, I hear the other shows just going on like clockwork.
And I was mentioned to you as I was driving down in that traffic jam through the city and all the way down to the South Shore. From show to show, as you mentioned, the quality, it's from a smaller radio station, you would think that it would be, I will say, amateurist or something like that, where it's college level. And to me, this sounds very high end, like one of the bigger studios. I'm not sure what's out there. Is it XKS, 107, KISS 108? So it's very quality, and I appreciate the fact that I have the opportunity to be here with you.
Absolutely. Well, 47 years plus in making an anniversary is coming up. Mr. Ed Perry has done a great job as the owner, and this is one of those things where this radio station is just the best of the best on the South Shore, Cape and the Islands, and the signal is just so powerful. So let's get back to the Opinionation and your hosting. Do you host trivia games too, or is it just Opinionation?
No, it's actually again with Sporkle. They host many different games, but my focus is specifically Opinionation, which again is Family Feud style trivia. And there's also a game called Stump Trivia, which originated back in 1998 by a guy named Bob Connie out of, I think he was out of West Roxbury. He was, from my understanding, he was hanging out in the local bar rooms and with all his friends. And back in those days, all you would get were the tabletop video games where the question would come up, you'd have a certain amount of time to hit a button. And over a period of time, people started realizing this wasn't what we really wanted to do for trivia. And I'm not quite sure if this is the exact story, but this is the story I've heard from multiple different people. So I would have to say that he had the idea that we should try to do this some sort of personal thing. And because he's a great outgoing person, very gregarious, and he said, well, why don't we try this live? And he put some sort of solution together to have in-person trivia games, and it just developed into this crazy thing up here in the Boston area. And how in Boston, right, we're always, we got the greatest. Well, this could be an opinion, but we have the greatest schools. We got Harvard, we got MIT, we have all the BU, BC, we have a lot of great schools. So we have a lot of intelligence. And when it comes to intelligence, that's where trivia comes in. So we have a lot of competitive people who like to play the game of trivia, and I believe that's why Stump did so well. But, of course, the hosts really bring a lot to the game as well. The engagement, the jokes, the camaraderie with all. As I mentioned, we got a great group there in Pearl Street on Wednesday. So I think that all builds in together those relationships that you build, but also the fun part about it. And as Stump grew, and I guess they had a lot of people that were out there interested in what they were offering up in this area that wanted to broaden their horizons. I don't know the full story around because I came later, but there was an organization out in the West Coast that acquired Stump in some sort of agreement, and we went under their umbrella. And then soon before COVID, Sporkle came in and picked us up. I don't know if it was an agreement between that organization, whatever happened, but Sporkle came in and grabbed the rights to Stump Trivia and as well as Opinionation. And they kept the branding, which was great because, again, it's got a great name up here. A lot of people know what the games are. And the Sporkle is based out of Detroit in the Michigan area. And so they get a great presence there with their product as well as Ohio. And I think Massachusetts is probably like the third state in the country that has the most trivia games under that brand of Sporkle. As I mentioned, they kept the Stump and the Opinionation brands, and they're playing those games in those areas as well. So Stump has really grown into a larger entity, I guess, of trivia, if you will. And it's just a fun environment. Opinionation, again, it's a different group of people because you don't really have to have intelligence or knowledge about specific topics. All you have to do is answer a bunch of questions. Again, like Family Feud. My example earlier, what color is the sky? It's blue. Well, a lot of people are probably going to say blue, and it's probably going to be the top answer. But what if you said, again, orange, right? Will that be on there? You never know. You've probably been there a few times when you see people going, why is that answer on there? Who's taking the survey? Are there older people like Paul and Steve taking these survey questions, or are these the usual phrase, are Gen Zers taking this? Do they even know anything? Have they been on this earth long enough? So it's that little bit of funness that goes with the game. And then trivia itself is always right or wrong, and rarely any challenges on that.
Absolutely. We have a chance for definite maybes, to come into the fray. But while we're on the subject, before we take a break, I just wanted to, if we're talking about trivia and my IMHO, I love acronyms and mnemonics, but in my humble opinion, the best of the best is Morgan White Jr. And Morgan White Jr., he's on another radio station, and he's a friend, and he's actually been out to Pearl Street Station on a Monday or a Tuesday in years past, and he just does a great job. He is Mr. Trivia, and his recall is absolutely, absolutely fabulous. So Morgan White Jr., if you're listening, hi there, hi to Nancy, and also too Mel Simons, who is often on Morgan's show, has done a great job. I've actually worked with Mel at a few college gatherings. He did some work for us when I was working at Babson in fundraising, and Mel Simons just does a great job, and he performs and shows up at a lot of various senior groups, community centers, et cetera, So just a shout out to those two fine individuals who are really great in the world of trivia. But it's time for us to pay some bills, so we're going to come up with some sponsors.
Have you tried Brianville Pizza Kitchen? From antipasto to baked ziti, specialty gourmet burgers, over 30 different kinds of pizza, and that steak and cheese. Come on in and they'll show you why they made a reputation as being the best steak and cheese sub in the area. There's nobody that puts it together like your friends at the Briantville Pizza Kitchen. Chicken wings and fingers and the famous flavors complement their stir-fry dinners. If subs and wraps aren't enough for your table tonight, expand into Greek and Caesar salads, maybe even a calzone. Anyway, it's all good at the Briantville Pizza Kitchen. And don't forget, invite them to your next catered event. They'll bring the food. Briantville Pizza Kitchen. Call them at 781-293-9857. Have you heard about Pembroke Collision? Price and quality don't often collide under the same roof. Not so at Pembroke Collision at 192 Benekeset Street in Pembroke. Pembroke Collision will work with you and your insurance company to get you back on the road in a safe and satisfactory vehicle. Put your trust in Ben Bastianelli and his crew at Pembroke Collision. Just call 781-293-4040 or find them on Facebook. Pembroke Collision, happy to work for you.
Are you looking for fencing and outdoor products? Look no further than Northeastern Fence and Supply Corporation of Saugus. When owner Mike Payne's customers have been asked why they chose Northeastern Fence, many said that there were three deciding factors: customer respect, excellent customer service, and quality products. I say that you need to add in 70-plus years of a family-run business with truly experienced sales and installation teams. So if you are in the market for fences for your kids, dogs, and ugly neighbors, please call Mike Payne and his crew at 781-233-3324 or email mike@northeasternfence.com.
Paul Ponders continues on 95.9 WATD. Once again, Paul Solano.
We are back, and thanks for listening to Paul Ponders on WATD. The call-in number is 781-837-4900. If you have any trivia questions you want answered, or if you want to just ask some questions about Opinionation, please do. But I want to pick up on the trivia theme. And for many years, Steve, with the Malden Public Library, I was the trivia master. And we raised a lot of money through the years, and it was the longest fundraiser in Malden that did not honor, longest running fundraiser in Malden that did not honor anyone, and went for 21 years. And then, of course, COVID hit, and getting 28 teams at 10 together was, in fact, very difficult. It just wasn't happening. But I was the trivia master, and the library staff came up with all sorts of questions and research. And some years the questions were really hard. I remember one year there was a big controversy because one of the trivia questions was, name the 5 parts of the brain. And people were saying, that's not trivia, that's knowledge. So let's talk about trivia knowledge recall.
Well, it's interesting how you mentioned the questions that come up that we have a great staff at Sporkle. We originally had a person who I think was a carryover from Stump that wrote most of the sets, and I would say probably 99.9% of the content he had written, we play trivia every day of the week. And so to write sets to make sure the integrity of the questions are correct, the accuracy of them are correct, but you still have people that question it. And I had an event the other day where a bunch of people at a country club called me in question, thinking I was the quiz master, and the gentleman was saying the question is written wrong. The question's not right, and I couldn't wrap my head. I didn't know how to respond to it because the question is the question. He had a question, and the question wasn't written right. I'm not quite sure. He was misunderstanding the way the question was. The question was specifically asking, when was the last team, what Major League Baseball was the last team to make a World Series appearance? It wasn't so much the last team to the longest drought without winning a World Series. Well, we all know in the Boston area that it was our beloved Red Sox that went for many years without, and then we reversed the curse, the Bambino's curse, and we won the championship in 2004. But after that, it had been Chicago Cubs. This team put the Cleveland Indians, and they were close, but the question wasn't so much without a win, it was without an appearance. And he challenged me with the word of the appearance. So this is where the knowledge comes into it versus the trivia part of it. In my opinion, knowledge is trivia because it's out there. It's factual. Opinionation is different. Some of the answers are in opinionation. They are facts, but doesn't necessarily people agree on them. For instance, you and I, we come from the Boston area, but are we James Bond fans? If I were to ask you, what are your 5 best James Bond movies? We may agree on 5 of them. I mean, a few of them, but not all 5 of them. I can almost guarantee that. But if there's a report out there that says, okay, what are the 5 top grossing box office movies for James Bond, that's all factual because that's all information that's been derived from box office numbers. You can't dispute that. So that's where I think the knowledge comes into the trivia piece of it, where it's, of course, you don't expect everybody to know everything. That's the fun part about playing trivia because what I see when I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, and when I see people's reactions to specific trivia questions, it's like, oh, I said this, but I really meant this. Or, oh, I knew it was that. And they kind of point the finger at each other about who made them change their mind or anything like that. Right. So, yeah, it's quite interesting. Like I said, I think the whole trivia versus the knowledge debate doesn't really exist because it's 1 and 1, in my opinion. And that's why I have an opinion.
Right, exactly. And that's where your opinion counts, right?
Absolutely.
It's part of the opinionation. Now, are there maximum numbers of players on the teams?
No, there's actually no limitations. When it used to be Stump prior to being purchased by Sporkle, there used to be a maximum you can have of 6 players on a team for trivia, Stump trivia. Opinionation, there really never numbers because, again, it's all about opinion. My thoughts with opinionation when people ask me that same question is, well, think about if you had a debate and you were around a round table and there were 10 people discussing an idea. You only have 2 minutes to try to figure out what answer you want to give. To try to get 10 people to come together on that answer, very challenging. I usually recommend teams of 4 to 6. That way it's a smaller group to figure out what an answer would be. Trivia, it's a different story because if you have 10 people, that one person out of the 10 may have the answer and everybody can agree or disagree with that. But someone out of the 10 should have the correct answer. But there's limitations. The game itself, there are none with Sporkle. You can have as many players as you want. And you may hear me joke about this when you're at Pearl Street. I say, especially if there's a team of 2 people, how can we play against that team? They have 6 or they have 8. Well, if a busload of people show up, like we had the other night with the group from Alabama,
right,
and they want to play the game, let them join in with you. Right. I'm sure they'll have some insights. It was a younger generation.
Yep.
I'm sure they'll have some. What if a question about Alabama comes up?
Right.
There's your resource right
That's
there.
True.
So, yeah, there are no limitations, although people complain about it, especially the smaller groups, when they say bigger groups winning. They always blame the amount of size of the teams, but it's not. In my opinion, the more people you have with opinionation, the harder it is to narrow down an answer, as opposed to if you and I had a discussion and when the question was, we could probably sit there and agree on one answer, can't we? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's a great reason for me to shout out that wonderful Altamont High School, private school out of Birmingham, Alabama. They were up at Pearl Street. They go to Bodeborg, and they dined with us. And we do a lot of work with Bodeborg up in Malden. And it's one of those things that this was one of the most well-behaved groups, they cleaned up after themselves. They were just awesome. So shout out to Cindy and Amanda for really just having a great group of students. I think we had like about 42 students from Alabama who were visiting local colleges in the area. And of course, I was advocating BC, and they had just come from Tufts, and they were at Northeastern. They were all over the place, but they were just so enamored with the welcome that they received from you when you were playing Sweet Home Alabama.
Well, it's interesting how you bring up the colleges there, because I wanted to tell you this after. I know you were walking them into the room while the song was playing, but you may have heard me say, "Roll Tide." And when I did say that, a lot of the kids were like, "Boo!" And they would give me the thumbs down. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know what to do." I'm like, yeah, I don't like them either. And Matt was there. Matt's a Michigan fan. I know they were in a different conference. I'm like, "Oh, Matt, what do you think about that?" And he's like, "Boo!" And it was quite interesting, but a majority of the kids were all cheering me on after I said "Down with Tide." But it was funny when I said "Roll Tide" initially, nobody had any positive response to it. I'm like, is this Alabama? Because usually I thought anybody from Alabama, the first thing out of their mouth was "Roll Tide."
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was interesting. So.
Oh, it really did work out well with that. But, it's one of those things that, trivia is out there. I know a lot of bars, restaurants will have it to bring people in. Are you going to be on the South Shore in the near future?
Coincidentally, and I can't say this any more definitively than what's going to come out here, when you asked me to come down and visit with you, I'm like, sure, absolutely. Didn't realize that I'll be at the Staywagon down like 2 doors down. For those, most Americans probably call it the Stellwagen. It's a beer company, right? Literally 2 doors down from where we're sitting right now. I'll be with them on Thursday night for a private trivia event. So I'll be spending time with them. And again, little I was 2 doors down. I'm sitting in the doorstep with you. And it's my understanding. I've never been there. I've heard of them. I understand that they're a great beer company. In fact, I think they're a great sponsor. Are they a sponsor of yours, Paul?
They are not, but you never know. I'll have to ponder that. Maybe I'll have to go. I'll have to go visit them. I don't know. Maybe we could have that little gathering we were talking about for our advertisers.
There you go.
For our listeners out there, for the 1 year of Paul Ponders on December 7th. We'll have to ponder that.
Yeah, exactly.
How's that sound? So how do our listeners contact you or just hear you in action? Because really, for our listeners in Paul Ponder's world, Steve Turner just does a fabulous job, and I cannot believe it is 5 years now. It's crazy. Those 3-4 years we've known each other, and really you have a great following, and you must be at other restaurants too.
I will say, Paul, I've really been lacking in the social media area because of my past presence with Facebook. I'm an older man. Not that I'm against the younger generational things like TikTok and Instagram, but to me, I've always stuck with my career, IT, trivia, now with the voiceover. So social media really hasn't been a thing in my forte. Although I realized, like last week when we had the Red Sox game on Pearl Street, the trivia game was canceled. I would have loved the opportunity to reach out to some of our fans and our players, let them know that the game was up. But you did a pretty good job of it, and a lot of people realized that, so they didn't. The downside is that we didn't get to spend time together that week, but also I realized you lost some business because of that. But I think you probably picked it up in other areas for people that were there for the game. But for me, I don't really have a following or a presence in social media. With shame on me, I need to get that up and running again, especially with the voiceover and like that. So all I can say right now is if you're interested in any trivia, go to Sporkle.com. That's the organization. I perform with you on Wednesday nights at Pearl Street at 7:30, and I also perform in South Boston at Local 149 on Tuesday nights for regular stump trivia. And
you're originally from South Boston?
I am, yeah.
All right. Your hometown.
I could say you park the car in Harvard Yard, but, that's so, And it's not Hollywoodized, back the car and that's Hollywood for me. I just speak from the mouth, and I don't blame anybody for making fun of me.
Were you on one of the leaded streets growing up?
I don't know. There's a little too much R in the park. It's more of an H, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Park the car in Harvard Yard.
You say, Tim, the other night, a woman approached me right at the end of the event, and she's looking for a host at her place, and she wanted me to do it. And she's like, and I mentioned the Boston accent. She's like, "You're from Southie, aren't you?" I'm like, I can't deny it. She goes, "Yeah, I can tell by the way you're talking. You're from Southie." I goes, "Well, Good catch, because I get that from a lot of people.
There we go. Nothing wrong with that. Well, as they say, Southie is my hometown. I spent a lot of time in South Boston, 18 years at the Pavilion as a food and beverage manager and on board at Notre Dame Education Center, so it's really, really cool being in Southie. Steve Turner, I want to thank you for being on, and it's really great to have you on, and hope to have you back soon.
Paul, as I mentioned earlier, it's been an honor and pleasure. Tim, thank you very much for producing today.
Absolutely. So I want our listeners to stay tuned to WATD for the Memories with Ron Dwyer, the grand poobah of oldies rock and roll. Welcome back, Ron. You are a true leader of the pack with great musical memories of yesteryear. So thank you, Ron. And thanks again to Tim, Arthur, Steve, and our advertisers. But really, thank you, listeners in WATD World and Beyond. Keep pondering. #Indeed.